We did it. We've teamed up, and together we've created something special. We are the Idaho Underground Sports Network, and we're changing the game. We're covering Idaho high school sports in a way that you haven't seen before. Together, we'll be providing weekly breakdowns and recaps while helping uncover Idaho's top talents at a deeper level. Trust us, you want to be part of this. Boise Sports Talk, EBC Media, and the Game Time Guru bring you Gym Session. Let's get to work. What's up, everybody? Welcome out to another episode of Gym Session. You'll notice that we are not currently in a studio, so to speak, like we were last week, hoping to be able to utilize that studio more and more as the year goes on. But the beauty of having the ability to do this type of a podcast is that we can, AJ's up north in Coeur d'Alene, and I can still, get a podcast recording in with him and get you guys the content that you guys want to hear. So alongside AJ Niebergall, I am Shane Larson. This is Gym Session with the Idaho Underground Sports Network. We appreciate you guys tuning in. We're missing Ty. Obviously, Ty is not with us today. He is busy with a lot of other things going on. If you guys didn't realize that Boise Sports Talk is blowing up right now. He's covering so many different sports, Boise State men's and women's basketball. He's got everything. He just wrapped up football season for the Yotes, and he's just going crazy. So he's got a lot of stuff going on, but he's with us in spirit, if you will. Just want to remind you guys, subscribe to this channel. We have this giveaway going on this week we want you guys to be a part of. Go check out our Instagram page if you haven't, and subscribe to this channel. Take part. Follow us on Instagram. Take part of the giveaway. We've got a baseball camp that we're giving away. It's a hitting camp from Coach Chris Frith, who joined us on the show last year. We've got a KO recovery 60-minute session being given away. That's for Cody Olinger. If you guys haven't seen, he's working with a lot of the high school athletes here in the Valley, as well as like Taylor Green from Boise State, quarterback at BSU. He works with a lot of the athletes. I'd encourage you guys to take advantage of that because it's an amazing opportunity to get your body right. So you get a 60-minute session there, and we'll be giving away an Idaho Underground Sports hoodie for one of the winners. So follow us on Instagram. Come subscribe to our channel. We're trying to get to 500 subscribers and build this channel more and more as we continue to grow this thing. So today, first and foremost, got to say, AJ, it's been a couple of weeks. It's good to have you back. How are you feeling up there? Are you feeling good? What have you been doing the last couple of weeks so the people here can understand what's happening with AJ or EBC?
Yeah, man. No, I mean, EBC, it has been essentially laid to rest. I am still posting things on the story currently just to help build Idaho Underground. We've got some pages here up north that are getting going that I'm assisting in. I'm helping Coach Buff continue to build his page up here, and then Inland Empire Media is a media page up here that has come on board with us that I'm helping him. He a student from Coeur d'Alene High School, helping him kind of get things organized and coordinated on how we kind of want to work with that moving forward and give the North more love. So it's been fun, man. We love our house up here. We're actually coming back for the state championship and Thanksgiving, and then I'm going to come back up probably through New Year's. So for the whole month of December, I'll be here covering high school basketball for Idaho Underground Sports, girls and boys. And I'll be assisting Coach Buff and Inland Empire Media on kind of growing, those platforms, which are an extension of what we're doing of our network. So EBC, I miss EBC. I miss the EBC sitcom and having fun with it. But like I said, it was just the right time for me to step away from that. I've got other things that I've needed to prioritize in my life. While still helping us build, our ultimate goal, which is Idaho Underground Sports. So it's been good, man. Just the recalibration for me, getting recentered and reprioritized has been amazing. So amazing that I'm going to come back up for another month after Thanksgiving and do Christmas and stuff up here and just continue to get my focus right and things organized. But I'm excited. We're growing. A shout out to BST. Like you said, he's over 11,000 followers. I am such a BST fan. I didn't even realize. Like I'm all over his page. I'm a fanboy of BST and what he's doing, man. He's covering everything. He posts his schedule every week, and I look at it and I get tired looking at it. I mean, I know what the grind is like, right? You know what the grind is like. And so super proud of him, excited for him, what he's doing. And it's helping us within what we're doing. And so exciting times, man, and really excited for this week. I'm excited to get back down there for a week and see everybody and give you a big bear hug. I missed you, buddy.
Yeah, man, it's been weird having you gone for a couple weeks, but I'm excited to be chatting with you here on the show, man. It's always fun having everybody together, and it's cool. Like if you guys heard what AJ said, we got Inland Empire Media, we've got Sam Buffington, who's covering sports up north as well. We're trying to help these channels, build so that we can help more people become, social media experts in regards to coverage of sports. It's kind of where the world is going. It's in the palm of your hand, and AJ was the first to really do it this way in Idaho. And so it's awesome to see that he's able to do that. But I'd encourage you guys to go follow those channels. Go follow Sam Buffington and go follow Inland Empire Media so that you guys can get the information from up north as well as we continue to build out this network for Idaho Underground Sports. We're going to break down the semifinals right now that happened this last week for 5A, and we're going to go into the state championship preview of the Rigby and Meridian game, which is going to be a rematch of the game of the year or game of the century last year, if you will, in the semifinals. So it's going to be amazing. But first, let's talk about Rigby defeating Rocky in an absolute battle, right? So it's interesting because the semifinals last year, Meridian played Rigby, and it was unbelievable. Came down to the wire, triple overtime. Just heartbreaker for Meridian. Amazing game for Rigby. Well, Rigby goes over to Rocky this time. And Rocky's not an easy place to win. And that's not an easy team to beat. They were on a mission to come back and try to get a rematch with Meridian and potentially the state title game. So Rigby had their backs against the wall. And we were joking around about this last week saying, Rigby should have just told their kids, hey, we're just going to get a hotel or an Airbnb for the next 3 weeks. And we're going to chill up in the Treasure Valley, because they had to come down to Eagle, go back home 4.5 hours away. They had to come back down for Rocky, go home 4.5 hours away. Now they're coming back down again to play Meridian. But AJ, let's talk about Rigby's performance to be able to defeat what we were calling we called Meridian and Rocky 1A and 1 double A as far as the top two teams in the state. And they came down here and they beat Rocky in their own home with just an incredible battle. So let's talk about that game and what we saw from Rigby.
Man, I was able to watch it. I was watching both games simultaneously while up here on NFHS Network. Shout out to our boy Chuck. But yeah, man, Rigby just you just got to feel that they are so confident. Like every game they go into, they just it seem to carry themselves like we're the best football team in Idaho. And it's been that way, pretty much been that way for the last decade. Like when you think about Idaho high school football, you think about Rigby and what Rigby has done. It's always kind of been Rocky Rigby, but after this win at Rocky, Rigby already having a loss to Highland earlier this year. Everybody they lost, everybody Rocky had coming back. It'll be the same conversation with Meridian this week. Everybody Meridian's got coming back compared to everybody Rigby has lost. Rigby is just reloaded. And for them to go to Eagle and win, I think Eagle's one of the toughest places to win in the entire state. And then you go to Rocky and win. After you go to Eagle and win, I mean, they are running through the SIC right now, but I do think they're going to run into something different that they haven't seen quite yet this Friday, which I'm excited about. But to touch on the Rocky game, based on what I saw and what BST has shared, and I have it pulled up right here, and I want to read what BST had to say about it. He was there. Obviously, his words carry weight. He said that you guys need to reiterate the point that Rigby is an extremely well-oiled machine from top to bottom. They are extremely disciplined, extremely confident, and their playmakers step up and make plays. And obviously he mentioned Mr. Brady Packer, who once again had 7 receptions, over 150 yards. He didn't have a hat trick like he did against Eagle for touchdowns, but he did have a huge touchdown, a huge third down conversion. And he seems to have established himself, according to BST as well, and based on what we've been seeing, as the best receiver and the top receiver in Idaho. Lucchini and Jacobson were probably in that conversation, based on what Lucchini did this year in the SIC and what Jacobson is doing from a college standpoint, committing to Utah and having offers from the likes of NC State and Oregon and whatnot. But when it came down to it, Brady Packer was the dude. He was the guy. And you were telling me before we started that on that on third and short to put the game away, they go to Packer. They throw the ball and they look to him, and the confidence that Luke Flowers has in him it's special. I mean, it just really just kind of reiterates what I'm saying. What the level of confidence Flowers has in Packer, it just shows that, yeah, Brady Packer's that guy. Like, we're 3rd and short to end the game. We're going to our guy. And a lot of times, the safe thing is to try and run the ball. But these guys are going to sling it. And it's going to be interesting to see, which we'll touch on more in a minute, what happens with Meridian. But Rigby to win that game, I don't necessarily think it was a surprise. It wasn't a surprise for BST. He picked Rigby. I was considering picking Rigby because, it's Rigby, but
right.
Rocky at Rocky, those are a lot of our guys. But man, Rigby has just shown that they are the cream of the crop in the state of Idaho when it comes to football. And I think they established that again, and they're the champs until they're not. And now we've got the game of the century rematch 2.0. A lot of new faces for Rigby, at least, but not a lot of new faces for Meridian. But they do remember. There are a lot of things being said about that game since the start of the season. So, wow. But Rigby, unbelievable job going to Eagle, then going to Rocky and pulling that out and making the defensive stop that they needed. And then, these guys are just mentally, they're just different. They believe in themselves. Their confidence is uber high. And as well as I do, Shane, when it comes to mentality and self-belief, that can push you over the top. That can get you there. That can do it.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. And I'll just echo what AJ said here. I mean, I have been so impressed with Rigby, their confidence, their unity as a team. That's leadership from the top down. Their coaching staff has their players believing, their confidence as a unit. Like, Flowers comes out there. I've only seen him in person now, like once, but I watched the game as well. Got the highlights from Ty, and I was watching the end of it. I'll get into that in a second on NFHS, considering Meridian's game got over 45 minutes prior to Rocky Mountain and Rigby getting over, which was insane. So I was able to watch the end of that game on NFHS, and just seeing Flowers and the ability, like, he's not rattled. And so your big time playmakers that you need to put the ball in their hands at the end of the game, they don't get rattled. And they've proven now. Eagle was one match, but Rocky at Rocky in a semifinal matchup, when you were down too, if you recall, in the 4th quarter, Rigby was down by 7 later in that game. So, oh, my son is crying. That's awesome. So in that game, they don't care if their backs are against the wall. They're going to come out there and make plays. They're not scared of the moment. And that's why they're a scary team. That's why they found themselves in the state championship game again, because they have been the staple here in Idaho. Now, just down the street, I was over at the Meridian game as they dismantled Mountain View. Okay. It was an absolute blowout, completely unexpected. I actually thought Mountain View was going to put up much more of a fight. 34-10 final score, and that last touchdown was literally a fumble with 30 seconds to go. Meridian's running back fumbled the ball. They returned it 50 yards for a touchdown. It should have been 34-3 final score. I mean, it was completely just it was bully ball. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way towards Mountain View. I think they had a very solid end of their season, and they came in there with a ton of momentum. And I think they truly believe they could do something there in that game. But Meridian, there's levels to the game, and Meridian just has a mission, and they are just a level higher. I will say this, though. Okay, this is the biggest piece of this game. And so Meridian fans that were at the game will understand this, but if those who didn't see the game, they won't fully understand where this game came down to. And I'm going to explain the 2 pieces of this game that shifted everything. AJ, it was 7-3, 2nd quarter. It's almost halftime. It's 3 minutes to go to the half. It wasn't like Meridian was blowing them out. 7-3. They're marching down the field, a little methodical drive. Meridian had I think there was 2 plays the whole game where they had negative yardage. That wasn't a penalty. So like where they got tackled behind the line of scrimmage. 2. Every play was either at the line of scrimmage or positive yardage. That's why we're calling it was like body shots in a boxing match. But they were methodically driving down the field against Mountain View. And on 2nd down, they get, I think it was either a clipping call or it was a holding call or something. It put them back 2nd and a mile. And the guy who was standing next to me, can't remember his name, he and I both looked at each other like, oh, that's a drive killer for Meridian. That's a drive killer, because they were moving, but they weren't getting big chunks of yardage. It was just little by little by little. Now it's 2nd and a mile, way back after a personal foul or whatever it was, and they're back towards midfield. Riley Byington, who had himself a hat trick this week, and he did it through the air and mainly on the ground, but on this play, Zeke Martinez hits him on an out route, maybe 3 yards is all it was. Boom. There were 2 guys on the edge to take him out of bounds. Byington immediately plants his foot in the ground and cuts upfield. He gets vertical. The coaches always say, get vertical. He did. He plants his foot and gets vertical and somehow gets past those two guys who had him pushing towards the end, to the out of bounds line. And he goes up. He ends up getting a first down on that play. It was 2nd and a mile just because he made one quick move, boom, and got upfield. He gets the first down. Meridian drives and drives and drives, capped off by who? Riley Byington. Right at the end of the half, like a minute to go, he drives in, lowers his shoulder, hits the boom, gets across. They go in 14-3 at the half. That doesn't happen if Byington doesn't make that play on 2nd and long. That was the game-changing play, in my opinion. Into the second quarter, it was 7-3. Mountain View was within striking distance. It was not like Meridian was just like throwing all over them or anything. It was that play changed everything. It was a momentum shifter. Then I will say this. Second half, Meridian gets the kickoff. Their first drive took 6 minutes and 5 seconds, and they scored a touchdown. That was half the quarter. Taken all the way down the field, they score a touchdown. Half the quarter, Mountain View comes out, goes 3 and out. Meridian gets the ball, drives all the way down, uses all the rest of the clock for the third quarter, and then the very first play of the fourth quarter, they score another touchdown. That is what they did. That play by Riley Byington in the second quarter and the entire third quarter was just a masterpiece by Meridian. Mountain View had the ball for less than 1 minute in the third quarter, and Meridian just completely shut them down. And body shots. They end up going in there, and that's how they played bully ball. It wasn't that bad until Meridian scored right before the half, and I think that's when the momentum just went boom, and they just took off. Great play. I mean, I don't know if people understand what like body shots are like in a boxing match, but I will speak from experience. I was fighting a guy, okay? He used to be a running back at Mountain View. I remember his name's Jamar Hardy. I remember he was 2 years younger than me, and I was 17. He was 15. We were fighting. We were sparring in our match, and he kept trying to take my head off. And his coach, which was my coach, was like, Jamar, stop being a headhunter. He said that immediately in our sparring match. He hits me to the stomach with one of the hardest punches I've ever been hit with. If no one's been hit with a body shot, you don't understand what it does to you. I literally couldn't breathe. I had a minute left in the round. I couldn't breathe. So I found myself scampering back to the ropes to try to lean against the ropes, and then he just started throwing flurries at me. And by the end of that round, I mean, I couldn't breathe. That's the kind of things that body shots do to you. And I've never forgotten that. When people say, oh, it's like body shots hurt, and they will wear you down. Because then I had 2 more rounds left to fight in that fight. I couldn't fight. I couldn't even move. I couldn't even focus on anything because my body was hurt. So then I was keeping my hands tucked, and then he was hitting my head, and I couldn't do it. It changes everything. Meridian is the masterful body shot team. They just chunk it away. Boom, 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 boom. And then by the second half, guess what? It might not be a blowout yet, but they've worn you down to the point where you're like, shoot, it feels like I played a full 4 quarters, and it's only been 2. That's what Meridian does. Shout out to Riley Byington for yet again becoming the player of the week. I mean, the whole team was a complete team effort. The entire defense locked down. You can't discredit anybody else. You don't want to just highlight one person, but Riley Byington is one of those players. He's a Brady Packer. That's why there are players of the week. Big time players make big time plays in big time moments. He did it. He did exactly that. 2nd and long, boom, he gets upfield. He had 3 touchdowns, and 2 of them he had to get across the goal line. He was diving, making an extra effort to get across. Meridian's dangerous, man. Besides, when you got Del Rio, Byington, and now St. Michelle, that's a triple-headed monster. That's going to be difficult. So shout out to them, which puts us to the rematch, like you said, game of the century last year, Meridian versus Rigby, Friday night, 7 o'clock at Albertsons Stadium. This is going to be huge. Okay. Couple storylines here, AJ. First and foremost, I want your thoughts on Meridian versus Rigby. Like, what are we excited for? Talk about the emotions now that we get this rematch.
Wow. I mean, we were there last year, and we know what the emotions are like for these Meridian Warriors. Here's my thought on that, though. Like, you can't come in overly hyped or blinded by anger or, oh, we want to just knock their heads off, because this Rigby group is going to challenge Meridian in a way they haven't been challenged. And this is no shot at anybody in the SIC, but Meridian has not been challenged through the air like they're going to be challenged this week at the start of the season. And shout out to our boys, Spencer Holland, Mason Mayer, Landon Eason, Ethan Beard, the secondary over there at Meridian. These corners are going to be tested like they haven't been tested. They beat Rocky, they beat Eagle, they beat everybody, and they asked us after the game, hey, did we pass the test? At that point, you had. There is nobody in the SIC that can sling it like Rigby, period. And and Rocky can throw the ball. They played well against Rocky. The next best passing team in the SIC, maybe Mountain View, but probably CUNA, because that's all they do is throw the ball, and they've got Snar and Celto and Austin and those guys. Meridian didn't play CUNA. So it's going to be interesting to see what these corners do. They're going to have to play their best games of the year. The secondary is going to have to tackle. To touch back on what happened against Mountain View, what was so impressive about Meridian is Meridian gave up a big play to Mekhi Patwell, and he was gone. Ethan Beard, I believe, tracked him down and tackled him on the 20-yard line or so after like a 50-yard gain. And I was thinking, oh boy, here comes Mountain View. They didn't gain another yard. They had to kick a field goal because they've got the best kicker in the state. That was their 3 points. They gave up one big play in the secondary, and it was a ball that 4 guys were there, and it could have been picked, and Patwell caught it and snuck through. So my point is, we have seen this Meridian secondary lock up all year. This is going to be a different game. I think this is going to be a serious challenge. They're going to have to tackle. I think if I'm Rigby, I'm going to challenge them deep often. I'm throwing the ball down the field. I'm going vertical because, listen, if Rigby tries to run these short crossing routes or these quick hitters, like that's going to be fine, but you're going to be hit like you've never been hit before. Like, ask your boys over at Highland what that was like when they came to Meridian and they tried to do these quick hitches and these quick crosses. Those dudes were getting obliterated. I remember making a reel for the game, and there was 5 or 6 hit of the week contenders. Like, there's going to be some huge hits in this game. Rigby's going to have to go vertical. Beard and Eason are going to have to be them. Okay, Ethan Beard is a Division I safety, a Division I DB. He's going to be tested, and he's going to have to prove it this week. He has proven it this year. He's very good. He's going to have a chance to show off this week. Landon Eason, Splinter, one of the original Ninja Turtles, he's going to have a chance to show out this week. They're going to have to if they're going to beat this Rigby team, because I think this Rigby defense, based on what I've seen and what I'm hearing, is not going to let Meridian just run the ball, and then throw the ball 8, 9, 10 times like they have. And Zeke is very efficient. When they play that type of game, they're very efficient. Zeke is efficient. He makes good decisions. He, for the most part, they take their shots downfield. But we've also seen Zeke against Rocky this year throw the ball 18 times, and he was 14 for 18 and was player of the week and had a huge game. And his best game of the year has been against Rocky Mountain. And so it's going to be really interesting to see what Meridian decides to do offensively, how they're going to attack Rigby, because I don't think you're going to line up against Rigby and run the ball, 10 times on a drive and continue to move the ball down the field. They're going to have to get creative. I think Cole Jones is a name to remember. I think Cole Jones could be a big play guy on a sweep, I think he's a guy that is going to need some opportunities. Griffin Deere is coming into his own. The young wide receiver over there, he made some big plays. And obviously, Freeze and Acree are their senior receivers who are back from last year. They're big play guys. Either one of those guys can pop off. I think Tyson Acree is another guy that could make a a state championship-altering play down the field vertical. But can they get the chunk of yards on the ground to find the rhythm they want to find offensively? We'll see. For me, that's the biggest question mark. What are they going to do offensively? And then to see what Rigby's going to be able to do against his defense. I mean, you have potentially the best defense we've ever seen. And I have not been around long enough to really solidify that. But you said it last week. Like, Meridian doesn't give up real touchdowns. They haven't yet. They've given up a muffed punt against Eagle first game of the year. They muffed the punt on the 8-yard line. It took Eagle 4 plays to get in the end zone. They scored first game of the year. Then they gave up a touchdown at the halftime buzzer against Highland on the goal line, and a lot of people didn't think he even got in. Then they gave up the Hail Mary to Rocky, and then they gave up the bounce pass to Middleton. They didn't even give up a touchdown to Mountain View. This team has given up 4 touchdowns, all of them questionable. So Rigby's going to have to come out. They're going to have to understand they're going to have to experience it. That's why I like this matchup better than Rocky for Meridian, because if you haven't played against Meridian yet, this Meridian team, this is a different team than last year.
Yeah,
you're going to get hit different. The speed of the game is different. You can ask Rocky, you can ask Highland, you can ask these other teams. the speed of the game is different. The physicality is different. But I'm excited, man. I'm excited that Rigby's strength on offense is Meridian's so-called, if you had to pick a weakness, and I'm not calling Mason Mayer and Spencer Island a weakness at this point. They have balled out. I think they're both all conference guys, but that's what you have to attack. That's where you have to go try and beat Meridian. And that's what Rigby's good at. And they got the best receiver in the state, a guy that can beat you by himself, as we've seen. And so, Shane, I am amped. I can't even stop talking about it.
Oh, man. Everything you said there, it's so true. And I don't know. Meridian is a solid defensive team. My question is, if Rigby can get in the end zone, how does Meridian respond to that, right? Like, because last year, I recall we were going into that game, that semifinal matchup, and Meridian's defense was stout last year too. And it was like they were just cutting through it like it was butter. It's like, poof, poof, poof. And both teams were. So there's no discredit. They were two very high-level offenses at that point, and high-level defenses, but they were just moving right through. And I wonder, like, I don't want that to happen. I don't know. I'm not going to say Meridian, oh, you're going to give up all these touchdowns. But if it does, how do they respond? I think they have the senior leadership to get past that. If it does, they have the leadership on that team to keep attacking and coming back. But I want to share a little storyline here real quick about Meridian. And then I'm going to also give you guys some information about Rigby on some players you need to watch, because Rigby is talented. This is why I wish we had Ty with us too, because Ty's a fan of Rigby as well. I am a very big fan of their program, but I want to share something here. Josh Bigler, shout out to Biggs. I went to high school with Bigler. He was 2 years younger than me, but he played college football after he got done with Meridian. He was part of the football teams that won the state championship in 05 as well as in 07. When it was 07, he was more of a vital piece there because he was a senior at that point in 07. But and in those state championship games, he gave me his stats: 136 yards, 2 touchdowns in the title game against Capital in 2007. That was a pretty cool game. They just ran all over them, dude. That was a cool one. So that was the last time Meridian ever won a state championship. However, Josh Bigler gave me some information about these guys. If you guys didn't know this about Meridian, so Biggs was the freshman head coach when all of these guys that are now seniors were freshmen, okay? And he made a comment about the press box. When I was at the game the other day at Meridian Mountain View, the press box, I said this to Colin Groves, who was there with me. Colin is the director at Idaho Premier Basketball. He was sitting there with me on the sideline. And I even said something to him about this. This is before Bigler said anything to me in a message. And I said, dude, where are they going to put another like title banner up there? Because they have all 3 of them are across the entire press box. There's no space for like a 4th. And I was like, that's kind of messed up. They don't have a space for anything for the future. And, we were talking about where would they put it? Well, it's funny because Bigler told me when he was the head coach or offensive coordinator of the freshman squad, he said the same thing. He was trying to get them to like change the press box because they wanted to have space up there so these kids could believe that they could get another title or have a shot at a title. So he brought that up the day after I said that to Colin, which was very interesting. Now, let's talk about this Meridian squad, why they're so special. A lot of these guys, this is what Bigler said. 2/3 of them were at Launchpad every Wednesday after practice for dinner and a fellowship and a biblical character study to build a brotherhood culture. He specifically mentioned Reynolds, Quarter, Beard, Freeze, Acree, etc. were there every single week. He also mentioned, this is what I thought was funny, it started with Optimist football. These kids grew up playing Optimist football together. They've been together forever. They've had like this unity. You can tell they have this unity on the field, by the way. They have this unity. And they were at the Brotherhood building. They were fiery and competitive. They were all too rowdy in the lunchroom that they had to eat lunch in Mr. Perry's room, our wide receiver coach. And the admin called them the Barbarians. Barbarians. That's what Meridian is. Basically, what Bigler wanted me to share was how special these kids are on this Meridian team. You can tell, though, right, AJ? Like, you can tell these kids had been together for a while. You can tell there's leadership. There's a difference between just having a solid group of athletes and having like tight-knit brotherhood. And you can tell they have that. I see Reynolds' leadership when he's on the defensive side of the ball. If somebody makes a mistake, I see how he picks people up. I see that across the whole entire team. That's from the leadership from the head coach all the way down. But these guys are special. I'm going to post this picture on this podcast, but you can't see it very well right now. But this is Nathan Reynolds and Ryan Quarter, youngsters, man. Youngsters just messing around. Bigler sent that to me. That was on a Wednesday night. One of those Wednesday night activities is they were doing a brotherhood. Like they're trying to build this brotherhood together as freshmen. Reynolds and Quarter have both grown a little bit since then. They've matured, it seems like. But so cool to see that storyline going into this, like understanding what they've built going to this moment. And this is a big moment for them because they've been there together for so long. Now, Rigby. I want you guys to remember a couple of names. Last week I was talking to you guys about the dude with the club on his hand. That's Zach Hawks, middle linebacker. Zach Hawks, keep an eye on this guy. The reason that Rigby, this is where I think I'm going to just play, the other side here and just share some of their strengths. Rigby has an amazing defensive front. Meridian does too, but Rigby has an amazing defensive front. And when I say front, I mean the front seven. That includes Zach Hawks, who has a club on one of his hands. They get their hands up. So if they're not going to get to this is what I noticed against Eagle, especially when they're not going to get to the quarterback, they do exactly what I've always I just don't, how many times I've screamed at a TV before watching my teams play, get your effing hands up. Then I'm bleeping that out right now, but I'm like, get your hands up, put your hands in the air. If you're a defensive lineman and you're not getting pressure, put your hands up. The thing is, what I saw with Rigby, how many deflected passes they had against Eagle, it's because they simply got their hands up. And that's including their linebackers and everyone. One of them that has one hand. He's got a club on one. That's Zach Hawks. Keep an eye on that. Zeke Martinez, I think Meridian does a really good job at rolling him out, sometimes putting him in positions where he's not going to have to throw over a line. He's not just going to step back, a 3-step drop and throw it, because he's not the tallest of guys. I love Zeke to death. He's one of my favorite dudes, but he's not the tallest. So they do a good job with their offense of setting them up and making sure the defense isn't all pinning their ears back and going, because that's what Meridian's offense, it keeps you guessing. So it puts Zeke in positions to be able to actually pass and have the protection that he needs. But Rigby gets their hands up. So keep an eye on that throughout this game on Friday night. Just remember that. They do get their hands up at the defensive line, and they deflect a lot of passes, and that's including the linebacking core. We've already talked about Luke Flowers, but I want to talk about his other receiver outside of Brady Packer, and his name is Cade Steffler. Cade is the one that I was talking about last week on the show. Against Eagle in the first half, Cade was the dude. Cade was the guy that Flowers was going to every single play. It seemed like every third down they were trying to extend drives. He was going to Cade. Brady Packer ended up having the hat trick and having some big-time plays, especially at the end of the first half against Eagle. And last week, obviously, he was kind of the go-to guy. But Cade Steffler is a very capable receiver as well. They've got that is two dudes. Those are two dudes right there that Rigby has that Meridian's going to have to be aware of. That comes down, in my opinion, to the defensive line and getting pressure on Luke Flowers, because you can't just let him sit back there for 20 minutes to throw the ball to two of those guys, because it doesn't matter how good you are. You could be Deion Sanders primetime back there. You're not going to guard two of those dudes getting open in open space with a ton of time. Defensive front for Meridian has to get pressure on Rigby, on Luke Flowers, if they hope to stop either one of those guys, because Cade and Brady, those two are some of the best receivers in the state of Idaho when they're working together. Okay. So just make sure, keep an eye on Sam Gamino, Jack Bodrero. I said his name wrong last week. It's not Brodrero. It's Bodrero. Those guys, you're going to hear their names called. Bodrero. You're going to see a lot of names being called on Rigby, but keep an eye on those dudes. They get the job done. Running back, Sam Gamino, he's going to do his thing when he comes in. Bodrero's listed as an athlete all across the field. That dude is a monster. You can give the ball to him. He can play wherever he wants to play. Bodrero's a stud. Rigby has some dudes. And what was interesting about this year, we wondered what would happen because Tiger moved on. He graduated last year, and we're like, what's going to happen? Flowers has proven, at least in the last two games for me, but I mean, pretty much this whole season, he's not scared of the moment. We talked about this earlier. Not scared of the moment. He's shown it. So I don't expect him to get rattled because he's been there. Rigby has a championship culture. This is their fourth year in a row in a state championship game. They're the defending champions. So while there might be some new faces at, for example, Flowers starting at quarterback, they at least understand it. They've been there. They understand the culture. The coaching staff understands the culture. The returning players understand the culture. They know the moment that they're in. It's not foreign to them. That plays a little bit in their favor as well. So this is why I'm excited. I think Meridian overall more talented, and honestly, in my opinion, should be favored in this game. Some people might argue that with me. I think Meridian's a better team. I think it's very close, but Rigby, with their experience and being there, could play a factor. I don't know. Does Meridian, do you think Meridian has does this play a factor in Meridian's preparation? Do you think that they're going to get shell shocked when they first come out there? Or do you think they have enough dudes who are ready for the moment that they're not going to spend 2 or 3 possessions trying to get their feet wet, if you know what I mean, AJ, trying to get warm for this game?
No, I think they're going to be locked in. I think, like you said, they've got the senior leadership all over the field. It's going to be fun to watch a sophomore quarterback go against a junior quarterback in this game. But Rigby beat Meridian last year at Meridian. Rigby is on a roll. ever since they lost to Highland, and they were up 21 to start the fourth quarter, and Highland came back and scored 22 points to beat them. But listen, this is just going to come down to taking care of the football for me, and not turning the ball over. And because you're right, there's going to come a time, I think, in this game where Rigby's going to score a real touchdown against Meridian, and Meridian's going to have to be like, okay, how do we respond to this? Are we going to be able to handle it? Because that's going to feel different. Yeah. And they already think a certain way of Rigby. Rigby, like you said, the defending champs. This is their state. This is, Idaho football equals Rigby. And so it's going to be mental, but I think these kids are tough enough. I think they're together enough. And to touch back on what you said about the togetherness of this group, Corbin Meisner, who everybody knows is my boy, he's family. He moved out here a couple years ago from Montana, and he was trying to figure out what the best situation for him was to where to go to high school. And so we sat down and we had talks with coaches, and we talked about what he was looking for and whatnot. But the togetherness of that Meridian group was really what drew him in, and was really what got him there. Because he's a senior as well. So that says something. When you've got a kid coming in from a different place who has the ability to really go where he wants to go for moving out of state, and his family is just trying to figure out, hey, what's the best situation for our son? And it was the culture of that group, that specific group, the guys that were his age. And then, of course, Coach Zamberlin and that coaching staff, what they brought as well. So Zamberlin has been building for this. This is the group to do it. They could have done it last year. They ran into this Rigby juggernaut. This is poetic, to say the least. If you're going to win it, of course you need to go take it from the champs, who are the team that have your number. And listen, I would say Meridian would be favored based on what we know, but they're not. They're not even the home team. I'm hearing that they're the visiting team. I don't understand that, unless it's based on where you're at in the bracket. But
I don't know if that has anything to do with favorites, though, or anything of that nature.
I agree, but for me, I don't know. That feels disrespectful to me. But I'm not going to read too much into that. But not that they need more of an edge, because based on conversations I've had with these guys, they're ready. They've been waiting for this. They've earned this. They want this. But do I think they're just going to go and take it? Do I think they're going to have to earn it? Yes. I think this comes down to the last possession. And I do think it's going to come down to Rigby's offense is going to have to score to beat Meridian's defense. And we are going to see potentially the best offense in the state have to score on the best defense maybe we've ever seen in the state, and based on numbers and statistics and dominance and physicality and all that. That's what I think this comes down to. And hopefully it doesn't come down to an extra point like it did last year when we saw a bunch of missed extra points to go to the state championship game. But I think this does come down. I think this is going to be one of Meridian's vintage, like they were against Highland, like they were against Rocky, where where they dominate defensively. The offense, can score. If the offense can score a couple times, it's going to come down, and it's going to be a 14-10 game, a 17-10 game, a 21-17, 21-14 type of game, 21-20. Who knows? But I think it's going to be close. I think this Meridian group is going to, at some point, they're going to have to go take it, because Rigby will absolutely not hand over the trophy. That's not what's going to happen here. That's not who they are. That's not what they're made of. That's not their personality. Meridian is going to have to go and prove that they're better. And do I think they can do it? Yes. Do I think they will do it? I guess we'll talk about that if we're going to do predictions. But
that's what I wanted to get into. Do we want to do predictions, or do we want to wait on that? Because I think
let's do it. I mean, we're going to post it anyway. I got Meridian. I said at the start of the year, I got Meridian winning state. I thought they may lose to Rocky the first time. They didn't. They proved us wrong there. They shut us up there. And listen, we remember, me and Shane are still hurt.
Hurt or pissed is one thing. We can say whatever you want to say.
But no, and we said we wouldn't pick against them again. I'm not picking against this group. I believe in this group. I know these kids all very well. I'm close with this group, and this is their time, I think. But am I worried? Am I nervous talking about it? Do I know who Rigby is? Absolutely. Yeah, it's gonna these kids are gonna have to go. They're gonna have to take it to a level they haven't taken it to yet, which I think we all know they have. And I think they solidify themselves as maybe the most dominant and physical defense we've maybe ever seen.
I'm gonna tell you this right now. I just echo everything you said about Meridian having to take it. Rigby is not going to just sit back and let it happen. Rigby is the state champion from last year, and until they're proven otherwise, right? Like that's just facts. It's not me saying, "Oh, Meridian's not as good as it." No, that you gotta take it. However, I did say after the Rocky game, I said, "Okay, they've proven it to me." So whether I was pissed or not at some of the actions of kids, that's cool. But like they proved it, and I'm happy about it. And I will not pick against Meridian because they have proven to me that they are ready for the moment. So with that being said, it's hard for me to do that. Like say like, okay, well, Rigby's the state champions and Meridian hasn't been there, but like Meridian's going to win this game. That's my prediction. I think it's going to be a very close game. I think it could potentially go to an overtime because neither team is going to give up. They're just going to keep swinging back and forth. And I love that. It's like a heavyweight matchup, right? And I don't know if you get a knockout punch like a heavyweight matchup. Maybe this is more like a lightweight matchup where it's just tons of punches hitting, and not a lot of guys are getting knocked out, but it's just going back and forth. That's more of probably what it's going to be like. But I got Meridian winning this one, and I got them winning by less than a touchdown. But I could see them, if they can get the ball rolling and they can get their running game going, that's tough for anybody to beat, because the same way that you can beat Meridian by just like getting down the field and actually scoring, that's the same way you can beat Rigby. If you can get some, like you get them thinking, if you got them questioning something, then maybe they're not so dominant. It goes for both sides. I think Meridian has the ability with their misdirection and the way that they run their offense, the way that Zeke is a leader at such a young age. They have leadership on both sides of the ball. Man, I think Meridian wins this game. So I'm picking Meridian.
I'm curious who you think is going to be an X factor for Meridian. I'm asking specifically because you're picking Meridian to win. For me, it's Nathan Reynolds. I'm going to throw that out there. Nathan Reynolds, and me and Nathan I'm probably going to have my Nathan Reynolds shirt on. But listen, Nathan Reynolds last year against Rigby did not play his best game. It's a game that he wishes he could have back. Mm-hmm. Okay. Nathan Reynolds is going to come out for me, and I think he's going to be the X factor of this game, whether that's on offense or defense or special teams. I think Nathan Reynolds, he's their guy. When you talk Meridian, you talk Nathan Reynolds. I think Nathan Reynolds is going to be the X factor for me, along with who I think the defensive player of the year was in the SIC, and that's Ryan Corder, who's a little banged up, but of course he's going to play. But for me, I'm going to say Nathan Reynolds.
The easy answer for me would just echo that as well. I think Reynolds is going to be an X factor for sure. He's the leader of that defense. I'm going to say Byington, but I can't just say Byington because Byington, yeah, he's had like amazing games, especially as of late, but like Del Rio is a big piece of that too. I don't want to discredit Del Rio. Del Rio's been an amazing running back. I just think the running back core for Meridian are there. That's the X factor. Who's getting the carries? Whenever they get the carries, they work well off of each other. Byington gets chunks of yards because Del Rio's getting chunks of yards, and they're wearing the team down together. So I think the running back core is going to be an X factor, especially on offense. On the defensive side of the ball, though, I was going to say their linebackers. Their linebackers have to play discipline, and that's both in the passing game and in the running game. They've got to contain the quarterback, but they've got to get back in coverage and eliminate passing windows. When you got Packer and Cade back there, ready to go. So the linebacking core. I'm not just going to say one player, but Reynolds is a big piece of that, but Corder's also there. You got Gwilliam as well over there. My goodness, Gooley is the other guy I'm trying to think of. You've got those dudes. They've got to play great in the pass game as well in the run game. So I'm going running backs and linebacking core. Those are the X factors. I can't just pick one player because Meridian is such a well-rounded unit for them. If you're going on Rigby, though, I've got to give Rigby a shout-out, too, for an X factor, okay? I think Brady Packer, obviously, is going to be an X factor. Can he continue his dominant play? Okay. You're now established as the number one receiver in the state of Idaho. Okay. And at least according to the guys on our squad, Brady Packer, X factor on offense. Defensively, this is the thing with Rigby. Their whole team is just such a well-oiled machine as well. So that's where I'm like, I don't even know who I'd pick as the X factor besides their front seven. Their front seven, if they can play disciplined football, which they do. They play very physical, disciplined football. They get their hands up. They work together. It's not just one guy dominating the entire game. If they can do that, Their front seven is going to be the X factor. Like, that's against Meridian's offensive line and everybody. That goes against their running back core and everyone. So front seven on defense and Brady Packer on offense.
And I will throw one out for offense. And I'm only thinking about last year when Con Danzy torched Meridian. They really focused on that tight end position. And based on what I saw from Con Danzy last year in the semifinal game, I was like, man, this kid's a monster. He's killing them. Then I looked at his numbers, and he had a good year, but he didn't have the type of year that you would have thought he had based on the numbers that he had against Meridian. But they focused on that tight end position. So I don't know who the tight end at Rigby is right now, but whoever it is, they attacked that spot last year against these linebackers and against this defense. Is the tight end position going to be another, Achilles heel for this Meridian defense? We're going to find out, because they did attack it consistently last year and it torched the Warriors. So that's what I would say. X factor for Rigby.
That's a good point. And I'm trying to think if it's Archibald or Larson who was playing. I could be. So if you guys are listening to this, please comment on the video. But that could be a huge one. And that, again, AJ, that puts your safeties and your linebackers in a position where they have to cover. That's where the linebacking and the safety core have to come in and cover tight end. Those are the two guys that are typically covering the tight ends when they're going out and going out for passes. And I remember that Danzy just blew them up. Granted, Danzy, that kid's a monster, man. Like, holy cow. You really get to see how big kids are when they actually play basketball, too. Because you get to see them without their pads, and you're like, oh, man, you're a big boy. Holy crap. All right, let's go.
He was a monster. But I will also mention this, and you said it. These four linebackers who you're going to have trouble running the ball on, and if you're a running back, you should be scared, because they are headhunters. They want to lay you out. Like I said, ask your boys over at Highland about that. But every one of these linebackers has an interception this year. Gooley has a pick 6. William has a pick. Quarter has a pick 6. Reynolds has a pick. These guys can cover, but they're going to be forced to cover. These corners are going to be forced to make plays that they haven't had to make. Rigby is going to test these guys like they have not been tested. They better be ready.
It's going to be so exciting. Can't wait to see you there. For all those who are out there, if you want tickets, make sure to go to, I think it's the GoFan app. But if you want to go to the IHSAA website, you can also go there and it will redirect you to the right location, because you got to purchase tickets online. I don't know if they're going to be doing it at the door. So you got to purchase them online. That's kind of the new direction everyone's going. We'll be there to provide coverage the best that we possibly can. We're excited to see this game, and props to everyone. Now, there's a lot of other teams, other divisions that we wish we could cover more. So with that being said, going into the next season and so forth, we want to continue to grow this, but we need sponsors to help us out so that we can continue to do that. So if you guys are interested, you guys have a business, or somebody who would love to work with us and be a sponsor of the Idaho Underground Sports Network, hit us up. That's how we'll be able to grow this thing. We look forward to providing you guys coverage. We're enjoying what we're doing, but we want to grow as well so that we can give you 4A, 3A, 2A, 1A, all the coverage that we need alongside of the 5A stuff, as well as other sports that we can branch into as well. So anyway, with that being said, I'm Shane Larson. This is AJ Niebergall. Make sure you're following us on at Idaho Underground Sports on Instagram. Again, take part of the giveaway that we've got going on, and we'll see you guys on Friday. Take care.